Daniel Koellerer, the first lifetime match-fixing ban. Daniel Koellerer's career in tennis didn't end with a graceful bow at center court. It was a sudden, crushing fall. Back in May 2011, the ITF dropped the hammer, announcing he was permanently expelled for match-fixing violations. This wasn't your average suspension. He got slapped with a lifetime ban and a $100,000 fine. That meant no tour events, no wildcards, no chance to step onto any sanctioned court ever again. Before this, he'd already been suspended in 2006 for 6 months for bad behavior and abusive conduct. At the time of his ban, the Austrian was ranked outside the top 100, his career already spiraling. That year wasn't great anyway. He'd been struggling with form, only managed to win a handful of matches. When the news broke, it was a seismic event. This wasn't just another violation. It was the first lifetime ban for match fixing in tennis history. That distinction alone made headlines worldwide. The ITF had been investigating suspicious betting patterns in his matches, and what they found was damning. In court documents, it emerged Koellerer had been involved in fixing multiple matches, manipulating results for financial gain. He denied everything at first, claimed innocence, said the whole thing was a conspiracy against him, but the evidence was overwhelming. Unusual betting spikes, suspicious play patterns, and testimonies that painted a clear picture. Koellerer later admitted in interviews he'd been approached multiple times to fix matches, though he still maintained his innocence regarding the specific charges. Meanwhile, he was trying to salvage something from the wreckage. He said he'd lost everything and was working construction jobs just to make ends meet. He appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport in 2012, but they upheld the ban. Since then, he's been completely shut out of professional tennis. His chances of any comeback are exactly 0. When the tennis world's highest-paid female athlete tested positive in 2016, it sent shockwaves through the sport. Back in March that year, just after losing in the Australian Open quarter-finals, the Russian called a press conference no one saw coming. She announced she'd failed a drug test for meldonium, a heart medication she'd been taking for a decade. The substance had just been banned on January 1st. She claimed she hadn't noticed the email warnings about the update to WADA's prohibited list. The ITF wasn't buying it. By June, they handed down a 2-year suspension, arguing she bore significant fault for not checking the updated list. At 29, this could have been a career death sentence. She was the world's richest female athlete, pulling in over $29 million annually from endorsements alone. When the ban hit, sponsors scattered. Nike suspended their relationship. Tag Heuer cut ties. Porsche put things on hold. Millions in endorsements vanished overnight, but Sharapova wasn't going down without a fight. She immediately appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and in October, they reduced her ban to 15 months. The panel found she hadn't intentionally doped, but was negligent. Still, 15 months out of the game, at her age, was brutal. During her suspension, she wrote a memoir titled Unstoppable, renovated her candy business Sharapova, and trained in secret. She was eligible to return in April 2017, and she did, getting a wild card to Stuttgart. The comeback? Controversial. Players like Eugenie Bouchard called her a cheater who shouldn't get wild cards. Caroline Wozniacki questioned why she got special treatment. The locker room was divided. Sharapova returned to Grand Slam action at the 2017 US Open via wild card. She made the 4th round, but she was never quite the same. Injuries piled up. Her ranking fluctuated, and she retired in 2020 with 5 Grand Slams, but the meldonium case permanently stained her legacy. Simona Halep, the Roxadestat controversy. Simona Halep's story took a turn nobody expected. In October 2022, while she was fighting to get back to the top after injuries, the ITIA announced she'd tested positive for Roxadestat at the US Open. This wasn't just any violation. Roxadestat is a serious blood-boosting agent. It increases red blood cell production, like EPO. The Romanian was stunned. She immediately declared her innocence and vowed to clear her name. Then, it got worse. In May 2023, she was hit with a second charge for irregularities in her athlete biological passport that suggested a pattern of doping over time. The tennis world was in disbelief. This was a 2-time Grand Slam champion, a former world #1, and one of the sport's most respected players. Her coach, Patrick Muratoglu, Serena Williams' former mentor, stood by her, her. Darren Cahill, who coached her to glory, said there was no chance she knowingly doped. The support was significant, but the evidence was troubling. In September 2023, the tribunal delivered its verdict, a 4-year ban. They found Halep had committed intentional doping violations, though they accepted her contaminated supplement claim. They just didn't believe it explained the levels found in her system. At 31, a 4-year ban meant her career was effectively over. Halep immediately appealed to CAS, desperately fighting to save her career. Her legal team, led by Howard Jacobs, argued the science was flawed and the contamination was real. In March 2024, CAS delivered a stunning reversal. The ban was reduced to 9 months, and since she'd already served that time, she was free to play immediately. The court found she bore no significant fault and that the violation was unintentional, but the damage was done. She'd lost 18 months of her prime. Her ranking had evaporated. She returned at the Miami Open in March 2024, but struggled to find form. The case divided tennis. Was she innocent or guilty? This one stayed hidden for years, until Agassi himself blew the lid off. In his 2009 autobiography, Open, the American 8-time Grand Slam champion admitted to using crystal meth in 1997 and lying to escape a ban. The revelation was a bombshell. Nobody saw it coming. According to Agassi, his assistant, Slim, introduced him to the drug during a dark, unraveling period. His ranking had plummeted to 141. His marriage to Brooke Shields was crumbling. He described taking the drug and feeling a tidal wave of euphoria. Then came the phone call that could have ended everything. The ATP informed him he'd failed a drug test. Crystal meth meant a 3-month suspension and career devastation. In desperation, Agassi concocted a lie. He wrote to the ATP, claiming he'd accidentally drunk from a soda spiked by Slim, and they bought it. The case was thrown out. Agassi escaped punishment. 12 years later, the tennis world was stunned. Here was one of the sport's greatest champions admitting to both drug use and deception. WADA wanted answers from the ATP. Marat Safin said Agassi should return his titles and prize money. Martina Navratilova called it irresponsible, but nothing could be done. The 8-year statute of limitations had long passed, and Agassi? He went on to resurrect his career spectacularly. After 1997, he won 5 of his 8 Grand Slams. He completed the career Grand Slam at the 1999 French Open. He finished that year as world number 1. It was one of sport's greatest comebacks. Looking back, Agassi says he was using drugs as an escape, and that telling the truth in his book was liberating. Today, he's seen as an elder statesman of tennis. The confession, almost forgotten, but for those who remember, it's a reminder even legends have dark secrets. He beat the system once, but the guilt followed him for over a decade until he finally came clean. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Richard Gasquet. When the Frenchman tested positive for cocaine in 2009, his excuse was so outrageous that nobody believed it could be true. But sometimes, truth is stranger than fiction. Back in March 2009, Gasquet had withdrawn from the Miami Masters with a shoulder injury. That night, he went to a nightclub to see a French DJ perform. According to his testimony, he met a woman named Pamela and kissed her multiple times throughout the night. Weeks later, he got the call, positive test for cocaine. He faced a 2-year ban that would destroy his career. At first, the ITF suspended him provisionally. He missed the French Open and Wimbledon, but Gasquet had an explanation that seemed pulled from a bad movie script. He claimed the only way cocaine entered his system was through kissing Pamela, who must have been using the drug. The amount detected was minimal, no more than a grain of salt. Incredibly, an independent tribunal bought it. In July 2009, they ruled he'd been inadvertently contaminated and reduced his ban to time already served, just 2.5 months. They described him as shy and reserved, honest and truthful. But WADA and the ITF weren't satisfied. They appealed to CAS, seeking a proper ban. In December, CAS delivered their verdict. Gasquet was completely cleared. They found it impossible for him to have known that kissing someone could lead to contamination. The cocaine kiss defense actually worked. The case became legendary in anti-doping circles. Here was a player who tested positive for a serious recreational drug and walked away virtually unpunished because of a kiss. Gasquet returned to tennis immediately. His ranking recovered from 51 to eventually back inside the top 10. He never tested positive again. Pamela reportedly threatened to sue for damaging her reputation, but never followed through. Some still mock the cocaine kiss explanation, but legally, it held up. Gasquet escaped what should have been a career-ending ban through either the most creative lie or the most unfortunate kiss in tennis history. The cocaine positive. The Swiss Miss's second retirement came with a shocking revelation. In November 2007, just months after reaching the Wimbledon quarterfinals, Martina Hingis called a press conference that stunned the tennis world. Fighting back tears, she announced she'd tested positive for cocaine at Wimbledon and was retiring immediately rather than fight the charges. The five-time Grand Slam champion vehemently denied ever taking drugs, calling the accusation horrendous and monstrous. She claimed the trace amounts found, just 42 nanograms per milliliter, were so low that contamination was the only explanation. Her private hair test came back negative, but the ITF's rules were clear. Any amount meant a 2-year ban. At 27, Hingis decided she couldn't face years of legal battles. She'd already retired once due to injuries in 2002, made a successful comeback, but now this would define her exit. In January 2008, the ITF made it official. 2-year ban. No appeal filed. The tennis world was divided. This was a player who'd been world number 1 at 16, won 5 Grand Slams by 20, and revolutionized women's tennis with her tactical brilliance. Cocaine use seemed completely out of character. Some believed she was innocent. Others felt she was hiding something by not fighting the ban. During her suspension, Hingis competed on Strictly Come Dancing and lived quietly in Switzerland. When eligible to return in 2010, she stayed away from singles. But in 2013, she made a surprising comeback in doubles, winning 4 more Grand Slams and returning to world number 1. She finally retired for good in 2017. The cocaine case remains a mystery. The amount was so minimal that many drug testing programs wouldn't even report it. Hingis never wavered from her innocence claim, but also never fought to clear her name. She was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013, but the positive test remains an uncomfortable footnote to an otherwise brilliant career. Viktor Troitsky, the blood test. This wasn't about what was in his blood. It was about refusing to give it. April 2013. After a first-round loss in Monte Carlo to Jarkko Nieminen, Viktor Troitsky was selected for both urine and blood testing. He provided the urine, but balked at the blood test, claiming he felt ill and had a lifelong fear of needles. What happened next depends on who you believe. Troitsky swears the doping control officer, Dr. Elena Gorodilova, told him it was fine to skip the blood test if he wrote an explanation letter. He says she assured him 100% there would be no consequences. But Dr. Gorodilova's version, she clearly told him she had no authority to excuse him and that the ITF would decide. By July, the ITF sided with the doctor. Troitsky got an 18-month ban for refusing the test without valid justification. For a player ranked 53rd in his prime, at 27, it was devastating. He would miss 6 Grand Slams, including a home Davis Cup final where Serbia was defending champion. Troitsky called it a nightmare. He immediately appealed to CAS, and the tennis world rallied. Novak Djokovic called the ban total injustice. Andy Murray said it was harsh. Rafael Nadal suggested the doctor shared blame if she wasn't clear. Even Roger Federer expressed sympathy. In November, CAS partially agreed. They reduced the ban to 12 months, but upheld the violation. Troitsky returned in July 2014. His ranking shattered, forced to play challengers to rebuild. The most frustrating part, he gave blood the very next day, tested negative. The case became a lesson in anti-doping's iron rule: strict liability. Refuse a test for any reason and you pay the price. Feeling sick, fearing needles, not valid excuses, Troitsky eventually clawed his way back, even helped Serbia win the ATP Cup in 2020. But those 12 months in exile during his prime were gone forever. Alexis Musialek, the match-fixing network. The Frenchman's downfall was as comprehensive as they come. In 2024, the ITIA announced Musialek had been banned for life. after being found guilty of 39 breaches of anti-corruption rules. This wasn't a single mistake. It was systematic match fixing over multiple years. The former world number 255 had fixed 9 matches between 2016 and 2018. But it didn't stop there. He wasn't just fixing his own matches, he was facilitating others, recruiting players, building a network of corruption. He received money for throwing matches and offered that same path to others. What made it worse? His complete refusal to cooperate. When investigators came calling, Koellerer withheld evidence, refused to assist, denied everything. That forced a full-scale investigation, and what they uncovered was damning. He was tied to a Belgian match-fixing syndicate led by Grigor Sargsyan. The evidence? Overwhelming. Suspicious betting patterns, financial transactions, testimonies from players he'd approached. Some had even reported him, saying he tried to recruit them. This wasn't small time. The network moved millions through fixed matches, especially in lower-tier events where scrutiny was minimal. At 35, the lifetime ban ended any hope of redemption. Koellerer had once been a respectable player, ranked inside the top 300, earning steady prize money, but now permanently exiled from all tennis activity. No coaching, no attending events, no second chance. His case was part of a larger crackdown. Over 30 players banned in connection with the same syndicate. But Koellerer, he got the harshest penalty as one of the ringleaders, and still no remorse. He maintained innocence, despite the mountain of evidence. For a man who'd built his life around tennis, being banished from the sport forever was the ultimate punishment. Boris Becker, from champion to criminal. Boris Becker's ban wasn't for doping, wasn't for match fixing, it was for something else entirely: bankruptcy fraud. The 6-time Grand Slam champion's fall from grace culminated in April 2022, when a London court convicted him on 4 charges under the Insolvency Act. The sentence? 2.5 years in prison. The crimes were serious. He'd illegally transferred large sums of money and hid $2.5 million in assets after being declared bankrupt in 2017. Becker moved hundreds of thousands of pounds to accounts belonging to his ex-wives, concealed property in Germany, and hid an $871,000 loan from a private bank. This wasn't a mistake, it was systematic deception. At his peak, Becker earned $50 million in prize money alone. But expensive divorces, disastrous investments, and a lavish lifestyle drained his fortune. By 2017, he owed nearly $62 million, much of it tied to an unpaid loan on a Spanish estate. Instead of facing the debt honestly, he tried to hide it. During the trial, Becker claimed he relied on advisors, that he didn't understand the full picture. The judge didn't buy it. She said he showed no remorse, tried to distance himself from his own crimes. Wimbledon's youngest male champion was going to prison at age 54. He served 8 months before being released and deported to Germany in December 2022. While not banned from tennis itself, Becker's barred from returning to the UK until 2025. His BBC commentary career over, his reputation shattered. This was the man who once coached Novak Djokovic to Grand Slam glory, now a convicted criminal. In May 2024, Becker was discharged from bankruptcy after reaching a settlement with creditors, but he still owed them millions. Becker's case is unique, not brought down by performance enhancers or match rigging, but by financial crime. From Wimbledon champion at 17 to prisoner at 54. It's one of sport's most dramatic and tragic falls from grace. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.